Hi everyone, I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yakker. My guest today is award-winning travel journalist and suspense author Dawn Barclay. We'll be talking about her book, Vacations Can Be Murder, a true crime lover's travel guide to New England. Dawn Barclay, welcome to Paranormal Yakker.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The idea of writing a travel guide for the growing numbers of people who are including in their vacations or devoting them completely to exploring the darker side of places they visit is a great one and fills a needed gap in the travel and tourism industry. By any chance, is there a backstory on how you came up with the idea of writing such a guide?
I have been a travel journalist for a long time, back to the 70s and early 80s. And I had written my first travel book back in the late 2023, I guess, or 2022. It came out and it was a niche guide called Traveling Different Vacation Strategies for Parents of the Anxious, the Inflexible, and the Neurodiverse. So that talked a lot about traveling with children on the spectrum, although it could work for any child, any neurotypical child as well. And that book did really well. I won the Lowell Thomas Gold Award for it, which is like the Oscars of travel writing. I was very proud to be able to bring that book to market and help people who thought they couldn't travel or didn't know how to travel with a child on the spectrum. So, coming off of that, I was looking for other nonfiction opportunities because I was basically a fiction writer up to that. And I was in Minneapolis for a convention called BoucherCon, which is the World Mystery Convention. It's for fans and authors. And I took a true crime tour of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I thought to myself, I wonder if anybody has written a book that encompasses all of the true crime tours around the country. And that got me looking into this whole idea. It was the seed of the idea, which would become this book, Vacations Can Be Murder, which is the first of probably 10 or more volumes covering the United States.
The book I'm now interviewing about covers New England, specifically Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And it's the first of a multi-volume series covering the US and beyond, as you just mentioned. Is there any reason, or is it just a toss of the coin, that New England is the first in your series?
I just decided to start in the upper right hand quarter of the country and move south. So the next book is New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Then I'll move down to Capital District. Then I'll be in the south, and then I'll be moving west. I just wanted to do it in an organized way.
For each state, you include a wealth of information, such as major crimes in that state, where they were committed, where criminals are jailed and bodies buried, haunted restaurants and hotels, ghost tours, and paranormal hotspots. Researching all of that had to be a monumental task. How, Dawn, did you do it?
A lot of sleepless nights. It took about 6 months to write the book. It takes me about a month to write each state and then a month to do fact check, a lot of time to do the bibliography. And I used a number of resource tools, including newspapers going back a couple of hundred years or however long I could get, whenever I could get them. Where newspapers couldn't cover what I needed, I contacted historical societies and libraries. I read books, I read case law and trial transcripts. And yeah, it all finally came together.
What, Dawn, was the decision-making process you used in deciding what you would and would not include in the New England edition of Vacations Can Be Murder?
Yeah, it's good you said New England because in New York you had to commit at least six murders before you got in because there was so much crime. So it kind of was a state by state basis. And I would look at all the crimes dating back as far back as I could. Some of them date back to the 1600s, all the way up to 2023, 2024. And I took what I thought was a good mixture of past and present. I try to include serial killers, but also mob hits and mass shootings and theft, grift, whatever I could to make a good mix. And I also limited it to crimes where I could pinpoint where they happened, because the heart of the book are the itineraries. And the itineraries bring together all the disparate parts of the book that I've included and puts them in an easy to follow format, breaking the state up into several different parts so you can tour in 1 to 3 days the section you want and include the hotels and the restaurants and the museums and everything else I've put in. So if I didn't have an exact location, I'll give you an example, but it's from New York, and that is the preppy murder in Central Park of Jennifer Levin. Because I only had a general area, which was Central Park, I didn't include it in the book because there was not a specific place you could go. On the flip side, Boston Strangler, I had the addresses of every single apartment building, so I put them in. Where it comes to private houses, I do not give you the house number, but I do give you the block number so you can walk that block, but you're not going to be standing outside of somebody's private home gawking.
You, Dawn, have saved tourists who love to explore the paranormal side of destinations they visit hours of research by concluding each chapter with easy to follow itineraries that bring all the different pieces together in, as you say, a logical way. And they do. You also include historical facts that many people may not have been aware of. One that I found fascinating is that more than 40 years before the Salem witch trials, where 19 alleged witches were executed, Connecticut had witch trials where 16 alleged witches were executed. What, Dawn, was your reaction when you came across tidbits like that, which in essence turns history, as many of us know it or think we know it, on its head?
Well, I don't really know what people know. It surprised me, but it might not surprise a lot of people who are really into this kind of information. Those Hartford witch trials happened between 1647 and 1663. I'm sneaking a look at my cheat notes. And there were actually 43 trials and 16 executions, many in Hartford, 3 in Wethersfield, sorry. And on May 26, 1647, Alice Young of Windsor was the first to be executed. A servant girl, Mary Johnson, was the first to confess to witchcraft in Connecticut, but was likely coerced by extensive torture. And she was executed somewhere between 1648 and 1650. Accounts vary. So yeah, I was surprised. And when I see something like that, of course, I'm going to put it in, but I don't know who knows what.
What I'll do now, Dawn, is mention a few of the many categories you cover and ask you to give me an example of what you write in that category for whatever city pops into your mind. This is going to be author's choice. Here goes. Tell me about a crime that was committed, preferably one that boggles the mind and caused you sleepless nights.
So I am going to read something from the book from Rhode Island, but I will say in advance that I'm not going to get the pronunciation of this man's name right. So please excuse me. I even listened to the YouTube video to get it right, and I can't remember it. So I'm sorry. Barrington, James Mitchell de Bardaleben, the second, was a kidnapper, rapist, torturer, counterfeiter, and suspected serial killer. A guy FBI profiler Roy Hazelwood described as, quote, the best documented serial sadist since the Marquis de Sade. He spent much of his time in shopping malls passing counterfeit bills, earning him the nickname the Mall Passer. Once he was arrested in 1983, so this is fairly recent, the Secret Service searched his storage locker for his counterfeiting equipment and found something even darker. Audio tapes and photographs of sex slayings, a, quote, death kit for quick murders on the run, even a bloody pair of women's underwear. Evidence that linked him to as many as 18 years worth of serious sexual crimes and murders in multiple states, including Louisiana, Michigan, Delaware, New York, and North Carolina. His main crime in Rhode Island, for which he was charged but never tried, was the murder of Edna Therrell McDonald, a real estate agent who met a, quote, Mr. Peter Morgan on the evening of April 29, 1971, allegedly to show a home on Heritage Road in Barrington. During their meeting, evidence suggests that after a struggle, McDonald was bound and gagged, suffered a blow to her head, and had been strangled with one leg of her stockings. This was not the first time he had murdered a real estate agent. Jean McFall met a similar fate in Bossier City, Louisiana. She was left hanging from the rafters in the attic of a for-sale home. In 1988, Debar Delebin was convicted and sentenced to 375 years in prison. And in 2011, while serving that sentence, he died of pneumonia at the Federal Medical Center in North Carolina.
Can you, Dawn, tell me about a hotel as well as a restaurant that are purported to be haunted? Who are the spirits who allegedly inhabit them, and in what ways have they made themselves known to those who claim to have seen them?
I'll give a couple of examples of things I've included, but I only list a couple of lines because the heart of the book is really true crime. In Town, Connecticut, there's a place called Harry's Jailhouse on Warwick Street, and I give all the contact information. It's now a restaurant, but it was a jail back in the 1850s, and it was rumored to be haunted. One of the things I think is really interesting, not necessarily haunted, but it is crime related, is the Liberty Hotel in Boston. And there's also Clink, which is their restaurant, and the Alibi Bar and Lounge on Charles Street used to be the Charles Street Jail and was once home to inmates such as Malcolm Little, who was Malcolm X, and Sacco and Vanzetti. Due to poor living conditions, the jail was declared unfit and closed for good on Memorial Day weekend 1990. In 2001, it was converted into a deluxe hotel. Parts of the jail are still visible there. But if you want something more haunted in Fall River, you can stay in Lizzie Borden's bed and breakfast. So that's her former house. They'll tell you what rooms belong to who. They have tours of the entire home. You can tour the cemetery outside as well.
What is your hope the readers of your guidebook to New England get out of it after reading
I hope
it?
they have a really enjoyable vacation. I love subcultures and I am fascinated by people who have unusual interests. And so this feeds into the interests of anyone who is into true crime, is into the paranormal, since I do list the haunted restaurants, hotels, and ghost tours, is into looking at the outside of jails and knowing who was incarcerated inside, and also who are tombstone tourists who like to go to cemeteries and see where various people were buried. This feeds into all of that. And it would be my hope that not only would they enjoy their vacation, but they might write to me afterward with pictures and a story about their trip, or allow me to interview them, and I'll put them on the Vacations Can Be Murder blog. And so everybody can enjoy their trip.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yakker want to buy Vacations Can Be Murder, a true crime lover's travel guide to New England, and also learn about the other books you've authored, how, Dawn, can they do that?
For Vacations Can Be Murder, they can go to vacationscanbemurder.com. They can also go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, bookshop.org, any place where they sell books online. It's available in paperback and ebook. If they're interested in my fiction, which is psychological suspense, domestic suspense, there's even a couple of romantic suspense books there, they can go to www.dmbarr.com. That's the name I write under for my fiction. And I'd love to hear from people. So if you're a reader and you want to review me, great. But if you just want to chat about the books, ask me questions, I'm always open to that too.
Dawn Barclay, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yakker. It was great yakking with you, and I look forward to interviewing you in the future when you publish other travel guides in your Vacations Can Be Murder series.
Thank you very much for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yakker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. So that you don't miss any upcoming shows, be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, just press the subscribe button on your screen.